Cursor, Claude Code, and Codex. Who's going to be the winner in this entire conversation? I have with me someone who has 20 years of software experience and is teaching people who are non-technical how to make apps and stuff with AI. And what better person to have this conversation with is with Robin. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be back, man.
Hey man, this is actually for those who are tuning in, part 2 of our series where we discuss using all of these AI coding tools to assist us to make software, to make apps. And, while some of us like to make really funny apps on the App Store that maybe takes pictures of your feet and rate them, Robin and the folks in his community do much more exciting things, that like actually shipping real software, making some real money. And I've previously had them on where we had this discussion. It was almost a month ago where we talked about Claude Code and Cursor. And, one was Team Cursor and one was Team Claude Code. And so we're going to continue that discussion today. And this is totally a live stream. So if you're tuned in, feel free to drop your comments and your questions and let us know what you're working with. But some pretty heated discussions we've already had just before the live stream, literally talking about Cursor being like the Lambo of coding and all kinds of crazy stuff that we're going to get into. So this is going to be a really spicy topic. I know a lot of people get really triggered by these types of things. And it's going to be like a real raw deal here. So we're just going to speak our minds. Mind you, this is our own opinion. We're not sponsored by any of these companies and we're not like getting a bag from anyone. So we're not going to talk positively just because we want some favors from some company like that. We're just going to give you the real take. I used to be an engineer at Apple for 12 years and now I'm basically on my own using AI and I'm looking at these pretty much as like a really technical engineer and like evaluating model outputs and trying to see, the types of apps that I put, is it reliable? How can I get to a more reliable system for output? So I'm really excited to have this conversation, Robin, because I'm just curious, like, what are you reaching into your bag for today for, teaching your students and kind of what's been the latest thing that you guys are, playing around with? Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Ray. Listen, it's funny that we have come full circle because as you said, we talked I cannot believe it was only a month ago. That's crazy. Where we talked about Cursor versus Claude Code, and Claude Code was really heavy at the time. Like it came out wild. People started adopting it because of the Max mode, right, or the Max subscriptions. And since then, a lot has happened, right? So I was like anti-Cursor, or I was Cursor. I don't remember exactly, but there was like a time where I wasn't really into Cursor, and I was like all in on Claude Code. And that has changed a lot. It's not a secret. Like, if you look at my X feed, I'm very outspoken on how Cursor, as Ray already said, is definitely the best coding IDE in the world right now, right? And
wait, you take Cursor over Claude Code?
Oh yeah, big time. But I have to put that into context because
yes,
I would argue that I have learned something big maybe like 3-4 weeks ago. And that is two things, actually. Number one is that GPT-5 is really freaking good. And I was one of the people that killed GPT-5 when it came out, right? And
yes.
Now it's my primary model for coding. I haven't used Claude models in like 2 weeks. So that might be something we can talk about in a bit. But then the second thing is, and that might be even more important, that I've become a vivid like defender of software architecture. You do not need to learn how to code. Code syntax is dead, is dying. It's like literally dying. It's another hill I will die on. But systems thinking and architecture, that's the life skill that will in the next decade be like the highest return on your investment. But That's a deeper topic to jump into. But the reason I bring this up is when you use a terminal like Claude Code, you don't have a proper like diff viewer, so you cannot like see all the changes in like a summary that Claude has done. You don't have a file browser or like a file tree, so you cannot see all the files that it has created, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I switched back to a full editor suite. And again, Cursor is like the Lambo in that area.
Wow. So a lot of different threads to pull on here from, Cursor, software in general, kind of where it's going, how people are using AI to code, because I feel like this is such an uncharted territory. At the very beginning, not too long ago, people were just paying a flat $20 a month, for their plans, and they were able to get a lot of coding out of the way. And, in the last, probably last quarter, I could say the last 3 months, a lot of that paradigm changed when, Cursor started charging that $200 a month, or more than that, $60 a month, saying that, it's going to cost you more to do these types of things. And then a lot of people pretty much followed suit with that. And then even Claude Code as well for their coding tasks. And it's like, wow, what a lot of this has changed. And so when we're thinking about these things, a lot of times it's positioned as, hey, you're getting value because you no longer have to hire these engineers to do it. Do you feel like you're getting value? Like, what is it specifically that you like about Cursor, or, not using Claude Code that's like the most important to you, and maybe for your students, right? Because a lot of them don't have maybe they have some technical stuff and they haven't done coding specifically, but how are you kind of driving results, right? Because as an engineer, I'm looking at this and some of the code that gets generated, should I just YOLO? Because that's what Anthropic's doing. I mean, that's what they say. So would love to hear your take. Yeah.
So what's the question? Why I would recommend Cursor over something like Claude Code, or what?
Yeah, what criteria are you using, or what specifically are your students gauging? Like, hey, this is really successful for me. Or what patterns are you seeing over and over again that you say, okay, Cursor is the stack right now, and it's like the thing that we're using right now. It's like as our gold standard right now.
So you give me such a good setup. I cannot wait to dive into this. So listen, a good setup for two reasons. Number one, and you're gonna love it because you're ex-Apple. Cursor to me is about the ecosystem, right? People say yeah, but I can use Claude Code and I can install it into VS Code, and then I can use Codex to do web agents. And bro, I don't want to do all of that. I want to have one solution, one monthly billing, all of this. And here comes the second part. I focus on the premium segment of AI coding, right? I don't use Grok Code Fast One because this model sucks that many times. It's you can choose 2 out of 3, right? You can choose good, fast, and cheap, right? Good, fast, cheap. You can choose 2. Grok Code, for example, is fast and extremely cheap, but it's really fucking bad for a model. So it's not a good model. And then because I focus on the premium segment of things, and I don't want people to waste time trying out different models and whatever, I choose the best of the best. And for me, Cursor does that because Cursor has automatic code review with BugBot. By the way, because every time I defend Cursor, people call me out for shilling it because I'm an influencer. They don't pay me. I just use it every day, right? So they have BugBot, which I was very resistant to use because it costs $40 a month. And there's free alternatives, right? You can use it as part of Claude Code with your Claude subscription. You can use Codex CLI now as part of your ChatGPT Plus subscription, but they are just not as good, right? And there are additional tools. So there's BugBot for the code review. Then there are the background tasks. There's the interface and the mobile app that lets me shoot off background tasks while I'm out and about, or in my bed just before I go to sleep or something like that, right? It has all the models. It has a direct connection to OpenAI. So you can they always say the plans have a specific number of credits, but you can always go over these credits. And I cannot prove this. I haven't tested this, but I assume that because they get friendship rates from OpenAI, which is pretty much guaranteed after you saw them on their live stream, right? That they are more willing to give you more of GPT-5 usage, even above your monthly subscription, right? Than Anthropic, which, they're very expensive, right?
That's an interesting conundrum here that you say that usage-wise compared to Sonnet, right? Sonnet is expensive and Opus even more.
Extremely expensive.
And so if you're talking about, some people in my Discord, I call them the 3 comma club. So 3 comma club is the billionaires. They're billionaires in tokens. Literally they've spent 1 billion plus tokens in a month. And that's a lot of requests to the model, right? A lot of back and forth. And so if you have that similar types of requests and number of tokens, when you put that in OpenAI, you still have quite a bit of budget if you're on the Ultra plan.
Yeah.
And it's but then on top of that, like you're saying with Cursor, you get the multiple models. you get the additional, access to, like everything else, like you said, that's like pretty much under the hood that's handled for you.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting, say, like integration that kind of helps you move fast. And so, tell me more about like, the type of like apps that you feel like are pretty good, or like what specific stack excels in this workflow? Like what is it that you guys are working with in the stack that like says, okay, like this is our pretty much our golden setup, and we just kind of keep, going into this deeper in the stack?
Sure. So basically, and maybe I can like tackle some of the questions that we're getting as well at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're getting a bunch of
What
questions.
we're doing right now is like, I recommend, if you are like a baller, right? Choose Cursor. There's just nothing better, because you got access to all the models, even like 1 million token sonnet, which is so expensive, my God. But it's a fun model to experiment with, right? But you have all the variants of GPT-5, which was one of the main reasons why I switched away from Claude Code. But since then, I noticed more, right? And then, for example, Jan and a couple other people, they say GPT-5, which is now, I recommend it to everyone, right? And in fact, I have a video coming out today, I think, about my experience over the last 3 weeks, and how it, like, almost without my permission, took over, because I just started experimenting, and at some point I realized I'm no longer switching back to Claude, right? So that took like about a week. But you're right, what people say, for example, about GPT-5, right? That GPT-5 is very slow. But here is something that no one has told you, and I don't know why, but GPT-5, and I say that in today's videos, like a little like sneak peek for the audience here, that there are a lot of things that you notice when you actually switch actively to GPT-5, right? One of these things is that, and people are like complaining about this all the time, that if you start with GPT-5 or GPT-5 High and in a fresh chat, and you use Cursor where you can see how much of your context window is being used, then a single prompt can get you to like 30 or 40% of like the entire token window, right? And people started like whining about this and be like, yeah, but this is so like, this is so dumb. Why would GPT-5 is useless, Bro, just keep asking questions, because there is a fundamental difference between the Claude models and the GPT-5 models. Claude models are extremely confident, which is, why they always like say, you're absolutely right, you're like absolutely right after 3 seconds of thinking, right? And then they make mistakes, like they say something like, oh yeah, I fixed the bug, it's in the same file, right? But then they didn't realize that the same file has the same pattern of bug in 3 different places. And it didn't realize it because it didn't reason enough, right? GPT-5 is not confident at all. So it starts with 0 confidence, assuming nothing. And then it has to build this confidence by reasoning a lot and like understanding your code base, right? So every time you open a new chat, it is very slow, because it has to build up this knowledge from scratch and put it all into your context window. But then if you stay on topic inside this chat, even if you use GPT-5 High, the amount of reasoning, despite being on High or GPT-5 or GPT-5 Medium, whatever you want to call it, suddenly every request only adds like 1 or 2% to your context window, and it answers often like this if it is confident. It doesn't argue for the sake or reason for the sake of reasoning. It does it when it thinks that it has to figure something out, which is way smarter than any other model that I've seen so far. And once you understand that, you can actually just stick to GPT-5, sometimes use GPT-5 High. And that is what I recommend right now, right? That if you have high stake tasks, like a bug fix or a new big feature, use GPT-5 High. Nothing beats this in terms of reasoning. And then maybe switch to GPT-5, where you can just stick there. You can just stay there, because it will speed up as you continue.
Do you use it inside of Cursor, or do you use Codex? Have you used Codex inside of Cursor? Okay, use both. Yeah. Do you have a preference for one over the other? Like
yeah, Cursor, of course, Cursor.
Cursor.
It's not a question.
So in my experience with using GPT-5, like the reason why I like the model so much, a lot of people don't say this, but once you've narrowed down where the bug fix is, or like, I'm a little more technical, so I'm actually looking through the functions and code and trying to understand them. And sometimes I'll just point it at a specific function. I'll say, I even speak my prompt in code. I'll say like, this webcam object, and then this function's doing this. the bug is in here. Can you add this? And with GPT-5 Low, it's so fast in cursor, just one-shotting it. Like, it's just, I don't need high. I already kind of did that in my head. It's like, and that's why for me as an engineer, because it's so steerable, it's really good. But sometimes I steer it and like, I'm not very clear. And it's like, I could see it in the thinking traces, like this guy's thing is not a good idea, but because he told me, I should do this, I should probably consider it and start doing it. And it's like, it's so good at actually following your instructions. It'll follow your instructions off the hill. It's like, it won't save itself.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I cannot give away my entire video, but I talk about all of this, man. It's like, I noticed so much that I recorded it in edit right now, but it's like the GPT-5 follows instructions for way longer too. Somebody in the chat said that earlier already, that when you have a rule, for example, in Claude Code, man, like 2 minutes in the conversation, it will have forgotten it. It will no longer execute this. If you say something like, don't run a dev server, I run it myself or something like that, there's no chance that Claude, you ask it like 5 follow-ups and suddenly, let me just run the dev server, Bro, I told you not to run the dev server. Like, what's your problem, GPT-5 doesn't do that,
That's funny. Miko was asking about, what about dangerous mode or skip edits in cursor? Is that something that I can let go in Claude Code? I guess people are just full on YOLO here. You kind of don't need it, to be honest, if you're using cursor, because it's really good now at like a lot of things, and agentically that loop, it just keeps going. I don't, if anyone hasn't tried the recent update in cursor, I would definitely suggest giving it a try. And if you have a small budget, just use GPT-5, which is really great. You could even use Codex, but I mean, like GPT-5, try even just Grok 4. I know you said it's not really a good model, but if you know a specific change, just watch how fast it moves in the IDE. And that's really, like, they've made so many fine tunes now that the understanding of, I don't know what crack the cursor team is on right now, because like it understands nearly every single file that's changed and every little text thing that you write as you're updating or as your agent has gone through. And it's like, oh yeah, I touched these files, and like, you don't have to explain a lot of things. Like I used to drag a lot of context in. Now I don't even do that. And it actually uses less context window than it normally does in Claude Code, which I have noticed. I use Claude Code a lot inside of Cursor. And when I have the same request and I run it in Cursor, it doesn't use the same amount of context, which I'm actually kind of blown away by. And so my workflow has actually been, I load up Claude Code with Opus. I take a little bit longer, right? And then I figure out like a good detailed plan. And then from there, I take that plan and just pop it into GPT-5 Medium. And that my plan actually says, it's actually chunked out step by step. And I say, make sure my plan is in phases with verifiable steps at each single phase. And in essence, for me, like you're saying with architecture, one of my things that I do, I kind of treat it like a project manager. And I say, like, in regular software engineering practice, you typically like have a sprint or something you're working towards. And then there's like a testability period where once you've landed all the code, you got to test it all integrated into the build so you can make sure that you can iterate on your stuff before you continue the feature development cycle. And so I'm kind of doing that as one agent call does it and it follows one part of the plan. The verifiable step is literally either me or the agent itself kind of doing a verification step. I usually don't trust the AI's verification like test that it likes to write. A lot of times it has a bias towards writing its own test that will pass because it's like it understands what it wrote. But then I like to just do a pass myself. I was like, okay, can I click the buttons? Is this the feature that I'm wanting? And sometimes it breaks, right? It's like, okay, that's the whole point. I need to actually fix this bug before I move forward. And then, like you just have this little iteration cycle, but it's basically really, really quick. And these types of things are actually really important in the software development cycle. It's kind of the way that I approach this type of thing. So yeah, Opus Claude Code is usually where I start. I could do it in Cursor, but I don't want to burn my $200 Ultra plan, just on one request. I feel like Claude Code is a really great thing. So yeah, I'm already spending like probably almost $1,000 a month, maybe, it's like 200 here, 200 there, 200, like everyone has $200 a month plans. Like how much are you spending a month?
So let me just like take one step back. We'll get there in a second about like how much I'm spending. But like one of the reasons why Cursor is so good with context is because they use indexing, right? And it is something that I only realized because what does indexing even mean? What does that mean? Like every AI coding tool that claims to do indexing, none of them is like really transparent about what that means. But if you look closely, you can see what that means for Cursor. Because when you start a new task in an indexed project, then you can see the language model ask semantic questions to Cursor. For example, you can ask, like GPT-5 or Claude can literally with language, which is what language models are good at, ask questions like, where do we work with Stripe in this project? Like with like a question, a literal question, right? And then Cursor feeds this back, because Cursor has indexed and created like a semantic search for your project. And now it's a bit buggy for me, to be honest, but it also included the pull request stuff. It does not reliably work for me. I wish it was, but it doesn't for me. But it has basically so much information that the language model with language can query to Cursor that, I haven't seen anything like it in any other coding engine. I know that Warp has indexing too, and Augment Code has it too. Augment Code works quite well, but I don't know if it works in the same way. But that's one of the mega underrated
Warp burns through requests too quickly. Oof.
Yeah, Warp is something.
And then I'm very Augment Code, they charge per like request, right? So like one request can do multiple tool calls and all this stuff, and it's like a, like pulling the handle from a slot machine, right? Like you don't, right?
No, it's like Warp is. I'm in close touch with the team for a while already. They're really nice and they're really perceptive to feedback, which that's why I support that, because they are. Again, they're like, I have to be careful because they just started sponsoring my channel. So, take whatever I say with a grain of salt.
That's why I said that this specific stream is literally raw opinion. So like, whatever Robin says is just, our own take. We're hanging out as engineers. It's kind of the reason why I wanted to get you on the show, is because it's really hard to have like some serious conversations online, because a lot of people's pre-recorded content, like you say, can be influenced by people. And like, if we're having this raw conversation, like you as the host, or you as the people who are watching our stream, you're dropping comments in, and I really do love everyone's like, dropping them in, and I'm trying to catch up a little bit because it's going a little too fast for me. But I think that's really important that we have these types of discussions live. Like, we need to just get the real take. You're hearing from us directly, good and bad. And I feel like, let us know, what other walls that people are running into. Because I run into stuff, right now. Okay, Claude Code to me seems nerfed right now. I was a big Claude Code fan, and I'm switching back a little bit. So it's like, it's slowing down quite a bit. Like even just using it here in Hawaii, which I typically get good tough times. And they recently released something that's saying that they were trying to do this upgrade, and their model was actually a lot dumber recently. So they're like, hey, our model was producing dumb results. We're sorry. We're kind of working on this type of rollout. And so I've made this concept before, but basically there are two stages. Once you train the model, this is like a whole effort to train it and get all the actual weights for the model deployed, or get the weights for the model settled. It's like the recipe for the cake. But then there's actually the deployment part, and the deployment part's a whole black art science that can actually affect the output, and most people don't even know it. So there's many factors that are contributing to it. So you can, like, Microsoft has OpenAI's weights. They deploy them, and they don't have the same responses as OpenAI when they do it. So like the engineers that are working on how much traffic is getting through, like you would not believe like how much utilization has to happen at a data center for one person's request to go through for a model, right? So they try to like group these things, and like there's these crazy techniques you probably shouldn't even know about that I don't even know about yet. And it's not really public information. It's all proprietary because it's all their own configurations. But if you can imagine, one change can like really mess up your output. And they basically have publicly admitted, Claude, the Anthropic team is saying like, hey, this is a problem that we accidentally messed up our deployment thing, and we're good trying to fix it. And it's good that you're even like letting us know, which is cool. Like some transparency here, which is great. And so like that affects everyone who uses their models. And so I think pricing is an interesting thing here. So we talked a lot about this, and as far as Codex, because we also have like Claude Code. For Claude Code, I'm paying $200 a month for the max plan, right? So I get unlimited, pretty much what feels like unlimited usage of Opus. It's like a really high amount. With Cursor Ultra, I get to access basically $400 of compute. Give or take. Some other models you get more generous if there isn't a lot of usage or something like that, right? Mm. And then now we're also talking about ChatGPT's $200 a month plan with Pro. It's technically not infinite. I thought it was infinite. I saw a post today on X saying that somebody got rate limited, but they were on the Pro plan. So like instead of being rate limited for 4 days, they're actually rate limited for like a couple of days or less than a day or something like that.
Yeah. It's actually funny, man, because the guy, you saw probably my tweet about it, and the guy just said, hey, because that was the guy who got like, who was like, I actually talked to him a bit about like Claude Code, and we talked a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's on the Pro plan and he got limited. And that's really weird because he said he didn't run a lot of like background agents or parallel agents at all, and he still got rate limited, and they are a bit like not super transparent about it. So yeah, it's not great. It's not great. For $200, I do not want to, especially when you consider that the model is half as expensive as Sonnet, and there's no way you would ever get rate limited on Sonnet usage, right? So why would you get, and even on the $100 plan, you would never get rate limited on Sonnet usage. It's like not possible, But then you pay twice as much for GPT-5 and you get rate limited? No, that's a bit of a joke, man,
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm really curious. Somebody says the rate limit happened on a weekly basis or something. It looks like it's both. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. There's no such thing as a private property anymore because you can view our entire computer with a screenshot. I don't know what that means, but I guess so. Yeah. You have a 5-hour limit. So Jan says you have a 5-hour limit if you have like, I know that's true for Anthropic, but I don't know if it's true for. Yeah. Oh yeah. Cause that's right. Claude Code changed it to weekly now because some people were abusing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So both of them have 5-hour and weekly limits, I never ran into the weekly limits, but I haven't used Claude Code to that extent since they introduced the limits. But I haven't heard from many people running into these limits. But then, man, on $200 on GPT-5, you should never get rate limited. Like that shouldn't be a thing unless you do something completely unreasonable, like letting it run 24/7 on high or something like that.
That's so. If you use it in Codex, does it like hit the rate limit faster? I'm really curious, like what configuration makes it hit faster, right? Like, because I feel like. I don't know, because that's kind of like only few, like you can use it in the CLI, right? With the Claude Code CLI. And then you can also use, OpenAI's CLI as well for the coding thing. And does one actually trigger more than the other? I'm really curious if there's even a bug. I think that they should just ban people that use it abusively and keep people coding. I agree with that. So yeah, Pro also has a 15 minutes limit per month on GPT-5 Pro model. 15 message limit per month for Pro? Really? I've sent like 100 messages on Pro. I use the interface though for ChatGPT on the Plus Codex. Oh, on Plus Codex hits rate limits faster now. Wow. Okay. I guess maybe
that's also really interesting, right? Because it's like, sorry, man, but like there's so much conflicting information because like ChatGPT, the ChatGPT and Codex team said that they have actually doubled the limits for Plus, but then there was a bug that they would actually hit them faster, and then they said they fixed that. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. So tell me more about cost, because I feel like that's a really big trigger online. People are like, it's very real. Like if you're trying to pay for these tools, I only have $200 a month. What should I spend it on? And like, to me, I kind of feel like with you on the same boat of this. It's like, I really think that if you're going to use tools that are going to basically replace other engineers, and not even replace them, but maybe be as good as another engineer, you're going to pay a lot of money just to even hire someone like that on your team. And then you have to deal with all like the human characteristics of that. Yeah. And so, what's your take on that? Yeah.
Ray, I have to. This is. It shouldn't be a hot take, but it is somehow is every time I talk about it. Listen, there's different levels of tools, right? There's like Cursor, which like in the high end, and there's also like AMP code, which I haven't tried yet, but everyone that is like balling, they use AMP code and they swear by it. They say something about it just makes the models run faster, and I think it's a lot of BS. But I'm going to try it out sooner or later,
Yes.
But then the thing is, okay, you don't need the $200 plans here and there, right? There are tools that you can use, which I would unconditionally recommend, like Windsurf, for example. I tried it the other day for like 2 days. Very good. Very, very good. And they had GPT-5 for free for a while, which is why I used it for like 2 or 3 weeks. They ran it for free. Even the high model they ran for free, man. That was pretty wild. And it costs now, but now I think GPT-5 costs like half a credit. So if you're like on the $15 a month plan, you get 1,000 GPT-5 requests per month. Yeah, good luck going through them, man. That's a lot of requests, you know. So Windscribe, extremely great value, way better than anything else. Augment Code, also really, really good. Fewer requests, more expensive, but better features, you know. But these are all like, you know, if you want to spend like $15 or maybe like $50 a month, you get really good tools. But here's the kicker: they won't last, right? Because all of them are subsidizing their plans into oblivion. And people, and that's where the hot take comes in, right? People need to stop whining about compute, because compute is really freaking expensive, right? And them saying like, oh yeah, but Cursor, like they messed it up, you know, they just took my $20 plan. Yeah, shocker, man. Do you know how much this $20 plan cost on the inside, right? Like behind the scenes. They don't care, right? Because they had access to it and now they don't. And so they whine about it. And listen, I understand, but this is not how the world works. This is like a promotional offer, basically, for all intents and purposes. And you knew it too. They're all playing like dumb, you know, like, no, but bro,
if you are from the hood and you've been on this drug dealer tip, I've seen this around I've seen this around my neighborhood before. You know, they come in for free. Like, hey, just try it.
Yeah.
You just need to try once. That's all you need to try it. You'll be back.
Yeah. It's like that, you know? It's like that.
I feel like this like mafia style, you know, like that's
people just need to stop whining, because you're totally right, man. All of these tools, they're like, I mean, so it's a race, right, between like user adoption and compute becoming cheaper. So they're like trying to level it out. But I promise you right now, clip this shit, man. In like 2 years from now, 50% of the companies that are currently offering AI coding, they'll be dead. They'll run out of VC money. Like, that's it. You know, I don't know which ones, but they're all burning VC money like their life depends on it. Because it kind of does, right? But
wow. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. Well, I want to get to that hot take and also throw in about like basically people talk about, well, open source, you know, it's going to be whatever. The only problem with open source is the fact that infrastructure is not there. Like, you need a 10K machine to run some of the best coding models that are as good as Sonnet or something like that to get like some real good work out of it, right? Otherwise, and like the other part of it is like, the larger the context window you have, the more RAM you need anyways. And then you're going to eat up a lot of power, a lot of juice. By the time you get everything configured, you're going to need like 20K machine, right? It's like, just pay for an API, you know? It's a lot easier. And sure, it's private or whatever, but like at that point, like what's the cost, right? And so the other part of it is I have this theory, right, where I feel like there's this rush to get users. And once people like become a user of a certain platform, it's going to be sticky. So the big rush is like, if you can get these large group of users, you now have the toll booth for access to these different AI models, and then you eat up everyone else around them. And so think about it this way: Apple versus Android, right? Like, Apple got the market share in the US, you know, for all of the phones. And guess who's buying apps? Like, you're buying it on the iPhone. You know, they have the toll, like, in order for you to deliver an app on Apple's devices, like fighting tooth and nail, like you have to buy, and you give as a developer 30%, or if you make over $1 million, you know, you give 30%. If you're under $1 million, you have to give up 15% of your profits to Apple. And so the same is basically here. Like you're saying, the plan, just like, you know, for Amazon, I think it was almost like 10 years of non-profit, like not making a profit before they actually, you know, like they were basically saying, we're just going to keep reinvesting in ourselves because we know that if we own all these different pieces of the actual landscape, we're going to be unbeatable. And people are just going to stick with us. Like, what other alternatives are there? to the point where it's actually taking out retail stores and everything like that. So it seems to me this is kind of like the same theory here. It's like if you in the AI space, especially for AI coding, can sweep up all those customers and keep them with you, and can continue to iterate and keep those, you're literally just trying to keep the best experience possible, maybe for the best price possible. And if you can convince your venture capital firms to keep that going, users are the moat. Like literally the users, if they don't feel like switching because it's a high switching cost, then, like that company actually is going to win and they're going to take over everyone else. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Like, what else are you left with? I think that's kind of, I don't know. I think, so do you feel like VS Code, like I know a lot of people are using, or like trying to switch to different alternatives. Somebody was talking a lot about Warp. A lot of people are talking here about, using AMP, so trying to do these other types of things. And you said like basically a lot of these companies may even just be gone in 5 years or something like that. You think it's like,
yeah.
Like what is it that you think is going to not make them survive? I guess is kind of my question.
Ray, let me preface this by saying that I just decided not to take any more sponsors, right? So I can be extremely honest, right? Let me ask you a real question, right?
Let's go.
What are their key differentiators between all of these coding tools, right? Like they all use the same freaking models. So what can they do? They can add semantic indexing. Okay, cool. A lot of them do that already, and it's only a matter of time before more of them do it, right? So what type of features do you think that they can integrate? Let's give them some ideas, that would actually make them competitive 5 years from now, right? Like what can they do? What can they possibly do to lock people in? Cursor is by far the furthest because they're creating this ecosystem, right? Which is good. They know what they're doing, despite, to the contrary of what everyone says. They know what they're doing, man, from a business perspective. But what will all these small coders do, right? Like
True, right?
They don't have USPs, man. They don't have USPs unless they have their own coding models. And let's be honest, like as someone just said, like Anthropic just raised another round at a post-money valuation of what? $169 billion. Even if a small coder will like try to, how could they possibly compete with this,
Facts. And then Claude Code is shipping like at a rate that we can't really see. And they get, the only thing that GPUs, I mean, for me, it's just like invest in NVIDIA, bro. Like NVIDIA stock is cheap right now. No, I was just like,
I do.
So let me just throw this out there. Meta, are they cooked? Like,
I don't think so. I think because we are super biased, right? We are like, we're looking at all of this from super biased from like the coding perspective. But AI does so much more. Right. And for like coding, sure, Sonnet and Opus and GPT-5 now, they're fantastic. But they are working on all of these like personalized VR, whatever type things, right? Like AI chatbots and whatever, for which they might need completely different models, right? Or like Apple. I mean, man, the most boring company in the world right now. My entire system is Apple, right? I will never switch. But they're such a boring company. But even they will eventually need to figure out AI for themselves, right? And I'm not talking about Siri. I'm talking about like with the Vision Pro, which I haven't used in like 6 months or so, But like, how cool would it be if there was like some, I don't know, man, some really cool AI integration that does some really cool stuff while you wear this. So this, I don't have the expertise to talk about this. So I wouldn't say anyone is cooked at this point,
It's an interesting take because I know Replit just released their own like agent thing that kind of works, and it's sort of limited, and I think everyone's kind of rushing into this space, and I at the end of the day, like you say, Cursor's so far ahead because they understand the development workflow themselves. They just said we want a better. I mean, that's how it started. When you listen to what the founders say, it's like we wanted a better autocomplete. and VS Code wasn't handling it with, like, it's surprising that these guys from college said like, and it's like, well, that's really an interesting idea. And then they just kind of keep taking it further and pulling on those threads, and then are going to eventually take over the internet. So, I mean, have you used any of the other stuff, like besides the top three we're talking about, Cursor, Claude Code, Codex, like Kiro, or any of these other IDEs, that people are referencing? Okay.
No, I have a very strong opinion. Like, for example, that's another hot take. There are these, there are all these like Kilo and Klein and Rue Code. What are they doing, man? Like, what is their USP? Back to like some custom models. Okay, fantastic. Why would anyone pay API pricing right now when they can get a ChatGPT subscription, an Anthropic subscription, or whatever model they want in the future? What are they doing? Who funds them? I don't understand. Like what? Yeah. So no, I stay away from all of them. There are some hardcore like tinkerers, I like to call them, because it's the nicest word I can come up with, right? That is like they like to have like full control, and they say like, like, oh, but I don't want to switch tools and whatever. Okay, but you're paying a fortune when you don't have to. And I'm talking fortune. I'm talking about like $1,000 plus or so a month just for API usage, when they could be paying like $200. But the only experience that I have, I mean, it's not like the only, but I've tested a lot of them. I tried like I downloaded this like Amazon Kiro as well, but it's like it was so slow that was like I didn't continue using it. But Windsurf, VS Code, Cursor, Augment Code, Claude Code, Codex, and probably Warp, because they're shipping at like lightning speed that it's hard to ignore them, but it's that's what I recommend. But the biggest value, so to go on the other side of that, right, the biggest value is right now, I think, is your code, is your like ChatGPT subscription with the native VS Code extension, which is fantastic. It's really good. It's like what Claude should have done and still hasn't done, because it's a native integration, right? Wow. Like I noticed the other day that if you, for example, you have add to do comments in your code, like add to do, or I need to integrate this, blah, 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 blah. There's a little line that says integrate with, or like implement with Codex. And then you click on it and it automatically shoots off a task in the Codex CLI. Like inside the extension, right?
Wow.
So this is all the stuff that Claude cannot do. Like the Claude Code people, they're always like, yeah, but it runs in the IDE. No, it doesn't run in an IDE. It runs in a terminal inside of an IDE. That's completely different,
Yeah. So this guy is saying
value and experience,
go to He says Claude Code to GPT-5 medium plans. Like how would you? Because this is kind of what you're talking about a little bit. Is like how you can use the Codex, in VS Code. You could even install the Codex thing in Cursor if you wanted to as well. And it's like I've been blasting through code fast for the implementation and flipping amazing but proper plan. I think that's kind of, like what you're saying is true. It's just like that, the value right now in that Codex plan, I feel like, with Medium, it is really, really good. And so in Codex itself, you can actually say, I want to do it local. You can flip it back to the cloud and back and forth. And the speed has actually increased quite a bit. And I mean,
right. Do you see a pattern there? They're also building an ecosystem, just like Cursor. Everyone is trying to build an ecosystem, so that they lock you in. Because let's be honest, once you have like the Codex workflow set up and like the extension set up, and you're like used to using the ChatGPT to like shoot off tasks, you're not gonna switch.
That's facts.
Like you could,
that's
but
facts.
you're not gonna.
No.
So everyone is switching to ecosystem.
That's interesting, because here's Levux's takes. He says, I wasted so much time trying to run Claude Code on my phone via SSH, and Codex already has it with the cloud. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, there's like an app I have to download just to try to make it happen. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's actually kind of the genius of the model and what Codex is. So, I mean, we're covering a lot of different aspects here. Yeah. There's like, the reason why we're talking a lot about these tools, and there's a reason like there's a lot of costs, and we're pretty much both of us believe that if you throw kind of costs out the window, what's going to get you the best experience, weighing in all these different factors, right? So like, with like maybe app code or some of these other ones, they don't have that other infrastructure like background agents that you can run, or something like Codex where you can just run it in the background and come back with these PRs. And so there's even a workflow that somebody's mentioning where in a PR request, you can run an agent to fill in the documentation. And so as you do a PR, it can make another PR that will literally, it's like a PR task that's just going to update the documentation of like, this is the plan that I implemented. Here's the latest updates. Here's a pull request that will feed back into your original, branch to just give you an update on, right?
Let me just because there's like one thing that is also underestimated, right? When people say like, oh yeah, but I can use just like this and this. Cursor is extremely popular. And that means that it's not only the internal ecosystem, but it's also the support for that ecosystem. That people write cursor rules and whole websites about sharing cursor rules, right? Now Warp, since yesterday, can use cursor rules, Like that's the power of a beast,
Yeah.
They don't mess around, man. So if you want the best experience right now, and I'll caveat that in a moment, Cursor is it. This is like unconditional, no compromise. If money is not a compromise that you're worried about.
Right.
Having said that, though, I get like token anxiety again now using Cursor. Even though I'm on the Ultra plan, I'm like, should I do this? I don't know. So that's why I also have Codex installed, right, as an integration in Cursor, so that, for example, if I want to update my docs, I run it through my ChatGPT Plus subscription, because the subscription has lots of like, not for like all day of coding, but if you want to do like run a bug check, a security check, update docs or something, I don't use my expensive Cursor shit for this, man. I use Codex,
Bro, this feels like a movie. It's like Batman and Robin, like you got to have your Batman IDE and you got to have your Robin, as your sidekick. And I feel like that's kind of what we need right now. You're going to have different agents. For me, that was Cursor and Claude Code, right? So I had the Cursor plan. I loved the ability to use these other models. So I didn't have that like FOMO of missing out. And then I also then got to, use Claude Code and all of the intelligence that comes with the Opus, because Opus is a beautiful planner, right? I'm not going to like spend a bunch of time waiting for it to generate code. But if I have a good workhorse now, like in GPT-5, there's no reason that I could just even use both, right? Like one for the planning and then one for just the execution. And, leverage as much intel. And I think at the end of the day, it's like architecture is a big deal. And maybe that's something that we can kind of go into in terms of like architecture patterns and how do you like approach developing an app? I know in your actual like cohort of people that you bring through, like what's an example of like maybe an app that you can share where you said, okay, like it's really important that we start with like this architecture or maybe this idea, and then kind of take that through to like how what does that look like in your workflow? Like, you load up Cursor, or like what are you using for this plan, and how do you like think about the architecture? Sure. Yeah.
So just I'll jump in that, but I just like checked because you said Opus is a fantastic planner, right? And it is, but it is like 90% more expensive than GPT-5. 90%, 10 times as expensive as GPT-5, right?
Bruh.
More. It's not like it's so expensive that and it's not better. That's the thing, right? I would be like, listen, Sonnet with like Opus, that would still crush it, especially because I like the Claude Code, how easy it is to switch with like Shift and whatever, to like Shift Alt or something tab, like whatever, right? Yeah, Shift Tab, right? It's great. I used it a lot, but it's so expensive, man. That if you have like the $100 plan and you do that all the time, and I experienced that last, like 3-4 weeks ago when I stopped using it, I just like always, I was on $100 plan, and I always like every 5 requests or so, I switched back to planning and continued with Sonnet, and I was limited. I ran into
that's
like
exactly what I did.
Limits,
Yeah.
So that's not cool, man. But going to the actual like way that I approach architecture now, it's very funny because I had like fundamental discoveries in the last like 3 weeks, where I started to rewrite a lot of the apps. That's the proof is in the pudding right here, right? where I rewrote a lot of the apps that I wrote with Claude Code to begin with, right? Because it was what, I hate this term, but it's like, it was like AI slop, right? Where it worked, it was good, it made me money, I didn't write. And fun fact, just to put that into context, I haven't even, despite being a developer with over 20 years of experience, I haven't written a line of code in 6 months. I read some code here and there, right? Yeah, I read some code, but that's why I'm so confident in saying that code is dead, right? Or dying fast.
Okay.
And you know why? Because I have this analogy. Code is a language, right? And languages are being solved right now with AI at the same time as coding languages. For example, when you have like a Google Hangout, you can now have a live conversation in different languages with each other. Right now it's only English and Spanish, but the point is I've tested it and it's near real time. And the voice even sounds 80% or so like the person that's speaking. Real time, Ray. It's crazy, you know? So
that's
just
insane.
The way that languages are being solved with AI in real time, code is too, because that's what code is. It's a language to talk to your machine, right? And so code is dead. Code is dead. Like, do not learn how to code. It's terrible. Code is like a terrible return on your investment, you know? System architecture is not, though. And I have a framework that I developed that I call SHIP.
SHIP.
And it's, SHIP. And it's very, very simple because it's like 4 steps, right?
Bruh.
It's, let me give it.
Oh wait, no, it's actually an acronym. I thought you meant just ship like software. No, it's SHIP, like it's actual acronym. Yeah, I'll let you cook, my friend. I'll let you go.
SHIP. So the S stands for, man, I just worked on this yesterday. Let me get this right, you know?
That's such a great acronym, bro. Like,
man, I love it. I really do.
Dude, Robin is locked in. If you, for those who are just tuning in, I think we're gonna this section of the thing is actually gonna get very useful. You know, it's actually gonna be like more, like I want to share some tips in terms of like what things that I've learned in the last couple of years, not a couple of years, the last couple of months, basically last quarter, coding with these different agents. I think you're gonna want to stay tuned for that, and I want to hear Robin's ship thing, because a lot of these things are going to be very useful for us to, you know, like all of the things that we've been learning, you know, between the two of us, we have like 30 plus years of experience in software, and this new age is just here. And there's just like so much that's happened, and it's going to be really interesting to hear our perspectives. So definitely lock in, folks. If you haven't had a chance to obviously do that little thumbs up types of things, the chat's been really good. And without further ado, Robin, ship it.
Right. So here is my simple 4-step ship framework. Number 1, the S. What does it stand for? It stands for systems planning. So instead of just asking the AI saying like, oh, I want to do X, Y, Z and whatever, just code it for me, right? You think about the components of your system first. Very simple, right? And you don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to write code for this. You just have to ask yourself, sit down and be like, okay, what do I want? I want users to be able to log in. I want users to be able to upload stuff like profile pictures, for example. I want a database so that users can somehow store things, right? These types of things. And then you go into a place like, so first you figure this out. Then you go to the next step with this, which is extremely important. And it's probably the most important in all of the 4 steps. Well, second one maybe. And that is H, which stands for hand pick your tools. That is so, so, so important, because instead of just letting AI say like, oh yeah, here's a database and here's something, you need to become a systems planner, right? You need to like go to something like Grok, and I have a little cheat code for that for non-technical people, because these are the people that I teach, right? And you just like say, okay, I want to build a system that needs user login, a database, I want to do this, and you give it more context. And then you wrap it up by saying something like, answer concisely in simple terms without technical jargon. I am not an engineer. Help me figure this out so I can make educated decisions, right? And you would be surprised of how great Grok and ChatGPT will answer and say like, oh, no worries. So for databases, you could have like these options, and it explains it to you like you're 5. So even though you're not an engineer, you'll be able to make educated decision and hand picking your tools by saying, okay, how much does this cost per month? How much free stuff do I get? Does it do everything that I need? Because when you go through like the comparisons, for example, you might figure out that you forgot something in your component thinking, in your system component thinking, right? So you can like iterate there. And that's the first 2 steps. And then step number 3, which is I. And that is a tip that I picked up from this guy called Ian Nattel or something like that on X. He loves Claude Code, right? And this guy at some point, and I love this idea, and I did it a lot since he suggested it. So the I stands for initial test build. So you have to ask yourself, now that I have this system planned out and I handpicked my components, now you need to build a minimum viable version of it. But really closely think about what components are actually required to test this idea. Because let's be honest, let's say you want to build like a custom chatbot platform where people make their own chatbots or something like that. You don't need to focus while proving that the system works that on like user logins and registration and all of this. You don't need any of this. You need to figure out, if you can figure out, how to connect, for example, your database to something like Anthropic Claude or ChatGPT APIs, right? Figure this out, prove it for yourself, and then move on to the final step, which is going to hurt you. Throw away everything that you've done so far and build the production build. And you do this, that's the P, production build, right? Where you refine the plan with everything that you have learned from the initial test build, you've gained confidence and whatever, you create an updated plan. And now with that experience that you've gained, you actually build your production. You do not need to be a coder for this, but you need to become a system architect. And that is what I'm teaching going forward.
That is super amazing. How can people find out more about you? How can they sign up? How can they join you? Because this is like, it takes years of experience with these types of things. And, the way that you're just able to kind of break these things down to help people through this process, I think it's just super valuable, like it's amazing. And the people in his community love Robin. Like Robin's, I found you on YouTube. I was like, bro, finally someone that actually kind of gets it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. The thing is, I have a program that I'm not gonna advertise here because it's very expensive and it's prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. So I will actually stop advertising it, and I started working on something else, a very appealing product that will basically teach people in an hour to an hour and a half, like a workshop, how to build an app. A simple app, of course, because it's an hour to an hour and a half, but teach them how to apply this framework. So guide them through from initial idea, and it's going to be a simple project, like for example, an AI chatbot or something like that. I start working on this now, and to deployment, right? From 0 to 1 using the framework that I just explained. And I'm going to publish it sometime this month, some launch or whatever. But it's I'm working on something like this, and when that happens, I think I will be able to teach a lot more people to do it,
Gotcha. Yeah, because you've been basically handcrafting, refining this type of movement with your core group of people, and making sure that that's how we learn and kind of iterate through these things. And yeah, I mean, I've been learning a lot too, as far as using these models and trying to figure out kind of how to do that from these different steps. I don't think I've landed it in such an elegant, acronym, for SHIP or something like that. But that's really, really beautiful. I think that's amazing alpha that you're sharing. Literally, this is, a video that he's probably going to release or has released or will be releasing soon. And this is something that, Robin's sharing in his community. It's just an invaluable resource online. If you haven't had a chance, go ahead and go follow him. You can see that it's by Robin. I think it's the handle there. Or just look up Robin on YouTube. You'll see some of his channels and things. I'll also have his channel linked below in the description for those who are kind of wondering, because the experience that we've been learning here has just been incredible for these types of things. So I think another thing that I feel like I've bumped into was this type of thing where it kind of taken similar to what you're saying, kind of iterate, come to that minimum viable feature. I've kind of have come to similar types of things. It's I've treated it okay, here's my plan. Let me just go ahead and attack it and see how I go with this, and then do those little iterations. And then when I'm happy, let's just go ahead and kind of, do a mini ship, And so for me, I usually make a GitHub branch, and that's kind of how I live in it, and then merge it back to main as my production type of thing. And so I think a lot of problems that some people have right now, it's some people are fearful that because they were vibe coding their first MVPs, they get a little bit scared now. It's okay, now I have production problems. Maybe I don't want to be a full-time engineer, right? I still want to do my cool job and like this is a side hustle, should I just hire someone to take over the project, or like what's been your experience with that for the folks who have like maybe had some success with their apps and it's like blowing up and scaling, you know, like what's
Yeah, this is gonna sound like a shill, but it's I'm a big fan of Hormozy, right? And what I've learned from this guy is that you never stop selling. So I'm not there yet, but it's in my interest to be able to pick people up when they start, keep educating them in higher programs to a degree that they launch. And when they launch, they have different problems. So I'll have to develop a new product at some point for the people that have launched their, but that's it. But the default thing that I always say is, unless you want to become sort of an engineer, or what I would call like an engineer 2.0, right? Like a systems architect, then you have to hire a team. There's no way around it. And subject to, because some people, some people come to me sometimes and they're like, yeah, can I like vibe code, like a insert extremely like crazy idea, like, I don't know, like
a marketplace for,
or like health, no, like hardcore, like confidential or like personal identifiable information type of stuff. And I would say, no, man, absolutely. And then they ask something like, can like Claude Code do that? Bro, it has nothing to do with Claude Code. What do you think you're doing? Like it's
a business decision. Like, that's a really good point. Yeah. I think that's a really good way to frame this. Is like, what's the actual business around it, right? The code is just the language is going to explain how to connect the business logic to, some repeatable steps, right? Literally, the code is an exploration of the operation side, right? It's a software operations instead of a hard physical operations in some ways. So, big shout outs to folks that are talking about ship. You know what? That'd be funny if I come up with my own acronym. I'll call it Cook, because I say Cook so much.
You should.
Right? I got to do
the
Cook
framework, I love that, actually. You should talk
bro.
Nah, Jan is the GOAT. He's actually a student of mine,
Let's go. Yeah, I think that's maybe that's kind of what I'm realizing too. It's like, I love this stuff. And I think maybe that's what's happening to other people too, right? I feel like for me as an engineer, like I spend less and less time with code over the years because you just get more responsibility and you're dealing more with business functions, right? Like literally business functions of, we're burning tens of millions of dollars every minute. Like, what do we do next? And like, out of all of the different bugs that can happen, right, of this really complicated system, which of the things are you going to have people focus on? And every single person that shows up to a meeting, that's $1 million a person, right? So like, that's the scale, like problems that you think of that you don't think about code anymore, right? And so now that like the AI coding is kind of like assisting in some of these like, scaffolding of, ideas and implementing them, like you say, you can just throwing away code just so easily, that doesn't cost you $1 million. That costs you way less, $200 a month maybe. Yeah. And so that like this, I think this is a really good thing that you just coined. It's like the software engineer 2.0, right? In this era of AI, when you're using it, now we're kind of all rethinking what that means for us. Like, what does that rethink? I don't think it means the traditional career. I dropped out of school. Like, I don't have an engineering background. Like, I come from the school of hard knocks of like, get shit done and ship software. Like, that's what it is. Like, it doesn't matter what your experience is. Can you sit down in a room and go through extreme pressure and make it out the other end, right? There've been people for these crazy PhDs that have never been in any under pressure before. And I think like you build that as you ship software, as you are in the trenches, as you are responsible for much more valuable things, right? You start with something small, you keep building, you keep building, and you keep building. And I think that's the game, right? Like just like fitness, just like life, I think we're kind of both believers in that. It's like you just keep building up to the next level. And if you're up for the challenge, I think this is kind of where you're at. If you're using these AI coding agents, especially right now, you're definitely taking this thing on. And I think it's just good to have other community members. Like if you have a community that you can join, whether it's Robin's, whether it's mine, other people like who are kind of in those same trenches, like just that helps so much, right? Like you can't really take this alone because you do need a lot of different perspectives, or even someone to tell you that your business idea is just kind of a little bit far-fetched right now. It's too risky.
Oh yeah.
Try another. All the time. Yeah. Like the ocean is so big right now with just any avenue of things that you can even niche down. I had somebody on a couple of weeks ago or we just talked about business ideas. Like if you're doing something, that for like uber wealthy people, like a lawyer versus a doctor versus like all these personas are so different, but they all can still generally serve the same thing. And you don't want to go for that. You want to go for the more niche, type of thing. And if one's too risky, like healthcare, can you pop into law? Can you pop into these other areas that you just didn't really realize was there, right? Just go about your real life, talk to real people, right? Damn.
All right. I think the key is there's like two things, right? There's like you just gotta decide and just stick with it. I'm like unapologetically myself. I don't give a shit, man. Like there's always people that gonna love you and there's people that are gonna hate you, right? And that's just true in life. And I don't want to be like in between person. It's like people always like, and I see this a lot with like a lot of AI channels, and I'm not gonna call them out, but like they're talking about everything. I don't talk about everything, man. I wanna like focus on.
You want to cook? You want to ship?
Solving one. I want to cook. I want to ship. Exactly. That's it. With this very specific type of person, But maybe there's like one more topic that we can actually talk about, which is something that I realized, and it's a side of AI coding that is completely underserved right now. Like if anyone is out there and wants to like do something with AI coding, that's some like alpha right here, which I've like extracted from like my students, and that is that AI coding is one thing, right? But the business side of AI coding is a completely different one, right? Because everyone can now sort of build apps, but there's not a lot of people yet. That's a great like channel idea for anyone that's listening, that focuses on the marketing side of things, like how to actually like there's a lot of like people on X that talk about it, but not on YouTube, that say like, okay, here I'm building like this app. There's a lot of these like built-in public type of people, but there has to be better ways, like some social media stuff, some ads, right? Some going from door to door in your local neighborhood, offering your solution to businesses, whatever it might be, but that is such an underrated niche that is so hungry for solutions right now that it's something I figure out for myself these days.
So there's a channel from Greg Eisenberg where he talks a lot about like marketing specific things, because I don't think he's like a coder, but he's more of like a business person. So he tries to find these different ideas and interviews people. His channel I think grew super fast because of like something like this, right? It's like, and I think he has a website where you can pay for access to all these different business ideas, right?
Join the chat. What the heck?
No way. Augment Code, bro. What is Augment Code, bro?
Yeah, let's talk about 20 minutes about Augment Code.
Yeah, let's yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious, actually.
Yeah, a bit late to the party because we actually talked about you guys a lot earlier.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we totally. If you want to, so by the way, the live stream is going to have timestamps, so you can go back later on YouTube, and all live stamps are powered by Ray Transcribes. Anyways, let's see. Augment Code. Did Codex win? What about AMP? I think we talked a lot about Codex. I think it's not either or. It's like and, right? So it's Batman and Robin, right? Like who's your Robin to your Batman? And like what's your like my Batman coder is literally, badass code like cursor, right? And then like the Robin is Codex, and or Claude Code, right? For some people. Yeah. And it kind of varies, right? You're going to be spending some money, and what's the best thing for you? For some people, it could be like AMP and like cursor, right? I think whatever your experience is, I feel like for me, it has like, I think my setup right now, I'm dancing between like three models, right? Like Claude Code is kind of burning me out because of how slow it is. And so I'm just like, okay, I'm only going to do Opus. I'm only going to generate the plan, and then GPT-5 for everything else. Whether it's GPT-5 inside of Cursor with the Ultra plan, which is what I'm paying for currently, or the Codex thing, which is also really, really fast. Augments, like I tried it a long time ago, but I need to try it again. I know that there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on there. I think, like you say, does it fit into your ship framework? The framework that you adopt for doing these types of things is going to be,
Right. Let me just like, if Augment is still listening, there's one thing that they need to solve ASAP, and that is implementation into Cursor, because they're only listed on the official marketplace So they can only officially be installed into VS Code, which is extremely annoying because there could be a lot of people that are like on the $20 cursor plan for like tabs and background tasks and whatever, right? Actually, background task augment has that too, but you cannot install it into cursor. Like you have to, the only way to do it is to install it in VS Code, then go into cursor, import your VS Code settings, but then it doesn't auto update. And for some reason, GPT-5 doesn't work. So it's like such a clunky, experience that if they fix that, I mean, there would be so many people that would be using it in cursor, just like
Facts.
I use Codex CLI now. It's just like I would rather use augment code than Codex. Well, yeah, I would, because Codex doesn't have all these like features, like the indexing, for example. So, but they need to fix that. Is this such a problem to like list on a secondary marketplace? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Codex.
Yeah, because like you have to or get the special URL that you would use to download the plugin, and then manually install the plugin by like dragging it into.
But it doesn't auto update. Then that's the thing.
Oh,
I
it
think
doesn't?
it cannot auto update. So I didn't check, but someone told me that if you install it into Cursor, it cannot auto update because it doesn't have this live connection to the marketplace.
Augment Code, if you're watching, fix that ASAP. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That should be like a single, like a today fix, because how bad can it be to like, I don't understand that at all.
Yo, we got a super chat, and Mr. Wayne says, if money doesn't really matter, what would be your dream vibe coder setup?
Yeah, man, I would love to have a truly unlimited cursor plan, because there's like anxiety of tokens like burning through. Like I would love to sometimes switch to Opus, for example, because I hear again and again that people are they still like Opus. Sometimes it's super niche, right? But sometimes these models, they have like problems fixing something, and then you switch to Opus, for example, and it just fixes it. But it also works the other way around, that when you're on Opus and it just cannot do something, you switch to GPT-5 and suddenly it figures it out. It's like a second pair of eyes. But I don't want to switch to Opus in Cursor. It's so expensive,
Yeah. I think for me, if I had like infinite money, it would be like Cursor Ultra, right? With like access to Opus.
Ultra Plus,
Yeah, Ultra Plus. I think AMP Code could be really interesting because they're using this thing called Oracle, which is kind of like this planning model. And so they're using, I think it's like an O3 model to do the planning. Because I used to use O3 Pro a lot. And that's the thing I hate right now with GPT interface. Like on the web, you can't select the O3 model. And so that was like my favorite model. And it scored really high on benchmarks for web research, right? And so like if I were to do that, I met with the AMP team and I showed them how I prompt. And like the way that I prompt is generally just give, I use whisper flow, right? So I hit the little icon and just yap my whole problem. And I usually just give that to Claude Sonnet, and Claude Sonnet understands what I'm trying to yap about and organizes my information into these little beautiful buckets, and then, does the next step. But when I do that in AMP, Oracle kicks in with all these tasks, but it doesn't actually really truly understand me. It just kind of goes off in this direction. It's like, wait, I want to really plan that. And, the advice I got from the team was like, hey, Ray, you should just chunk down your plan and just give it smaller pieces of information. And I said, dude, the whole point, like, I don't know if you know how UX works, is that like you have one box and the user is going to, like, whenever you give me one box, it's on you as the person who give me the box to you. You're supposed to go run all the automations and figure it out and bring it back to me, right? Like if it's not clear, make it clear, run it through some models and come back and say, this is what I got. Do I understand what you're saying? Or we understand what you're saying. Let's go ahead and move forward with this plan type of thing. And so that's where
that's such an engineer answer, That's such an engineering answer to say. And I was like, oh yeah, but you just have to do. I don't have to do anything. Like what are you talking about? Like just fix it. It's like.
I mean, that's why I mean, I fought so many battles at Apple over a lot of engineering talk like that, because it's like, it doesn't matter. Like if you ever worked with anyone at the Genius Bar or worked with anyone in person in real life, like that's not how they use software. That you give them an interface, the interface explains everything from that. And so like Cursor is kind of cool because it's such a kind of simple interface and it could do quite a bit with it, right? And that's why Opus is really interesting too, because it's a simple interface. It's still the same interface, but then Opus as a model by its instruction set tries to figure that out for you. And if AMP figures that out, I think that could be really interesting combined with their Oracle planning model. And then all the calls and tools that it does for following up after that would be really interesting. Augment Code, I haven't really got a chance to try out again. And I'm really curious to see how it would do if I do the same type of thing. But I feel like
they have GPT-5 now, so that's good.
Yeah, GPT-5 is like interesting. GPT-5 is interesting because but I think the speed is another thing too. If GPT-5 was fast, like super fast, like Grok Code fast, that would be insane.
Okay,
bro.
this you cannot compete with. But there's this like one secret variation of Codex that almost no one knows about, right?
Bro, drop
like
the
everyone
alpha.
talks about. It's not that secret, but it's there is one variation of GPT-5 that is not available in like Cursor or Augment or Windsurf or in any other coder, except, let me just build this suspense a little bit, the Codex CLI, right? In the Codex CLI, you have 4 variations. You have the high, the medium, the low, and a secret one called minimal, right?
Minimal thinking.
Minimal model.
Yes.
This is the closest thing to the type of model that you think about. And I honestly don't understand, because it's clearly available in the API, or else it wouldn't be available in Codex CLI. So why does it not exist? Because it was added only recent, like maybe like 2 weeks ago. And Cursor, I've tweeted them a million times, It's like, why do I not have minimal? It's like, I would love to use high or medium to plan, and then just switch to minimal and like blast through it,
That's kind of why I use low. It's because I have my plan that's written like so chunked out that with verifiable steps that I just go to low and just let it just ship the thing. And I find it super good. I mean, it's very, very good on that. Tech friends Augment is goated for running large code bases.
But Cursor too, right? I think Cursor, see, that's the thing, and that's what Anthropic just experienced, right? That reputation is very hard to build and very easy to destroy, right? And Anthropic and Cursor, they have both experienced that, because Cursor back in the day, before they had basically Max running on all their models and whatever, like GPT-5 runs only in Max. There's no non-Max version of GPT-5, right? So it's back then they limited code token context window, and people have never recovered from that. Now you can use the full token context window. You have proper semantic search indexes and all of that, So I don't actually know if it's not equal to a Walkman code. Hard to know, but it's the same with Warp. Like, how do these indexes really differ?
Yeah, like it's the same technique. I feel like the techniques have sort of converged, but we'll have to try it out. It'd be really interesting. I'm also interested in like people who use different stacks right now, because React is a very composable framework, and as far as like if you're using it for Python, it may or may not have the same performance, just like all of these models, right? GPT-5. And then like Swift coding, I just throw Swift out the window. I just rather do that by hand. It's just gonna be a lot faster and stuff. So I don't know. That's a really interesting conundrum there. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So we've covered a lot of things, like ship framework. How do you actually compose your stuff? Thinking of the architect. We talked a lot about like software 2.0 and like engineer 2.0, basically. With this new era where code as a language has been solved per se. And so what does that mean? It's like you can translate ideas to code.
I said code is dead. Get your
code is dead. Oh, snap. Okay, code is dead, aka. And what is our like a lot of people are going to look at this from a fear perspective. It's like, no, it's actually look at it from an enabling power perspective. How can you become a better architect? What does that look like? And that's the ship framework. And then Ray's Cook framework will be coming soon. Trust me.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. Yeah.
No, and that's it, and you will see engineers fight for, I understand, and I have empathy, but they're fighting for their lives when I say something like that, they're like, no, it's so short-sighted. Code. No, bro, code is dead. There's going to be, because think about it, man, I say this right now towards the end of 2025. Give it another year. Think about this. I said this in a video that's coming out tomorrow or like maybe today, where I said that GPT-5, for example, is a very, very like real world example. GPT-5 has to be tamed, and I explained that in the video, in the same way that we had to tame Sonnet 3.7, which if you had the chance to use, like back in the day being like 3 months ago, it's like what are you like think about it. Think about the advancements in just the last year and how good code has become. And now fast forward a year or two, code is dead. Man, I need people to understand that, because if you learn, there's people right now in university learning how to code, and they said, like, I cannot say what I want to say, but
hey, Robin,
their time would be better invested, doing something.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Exactly. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah. So I think let's expand on this, because it's a really hot topic a little bit. And here is maybe some advice I would say if you're starting out, especially as a person maybe in college. And this is kind of the route that I took, right? Like you starting out maybe as a QA engineer, where you're literally taking existing code and you're just testing the user flow, right? You're going to pull apart the build, and you're going to start to understand when I hit this button, what actually happens, right? Oh, there's a user interface. Let me just start debugging and tracing through the code. And so whenever you see you tell your AI to fix it, at this time you can tell an engineer to fix it. You can start reviewing and looking at the code to learn a little bit of what that means. And so one of the first things that I learned that was super helpful that somebody did was they sat me in front of a whiteboard and okay, Ray, you're working on the software update stack. Here's our stack. They just drew a stack diagram, these little boxes of code that says, whenever you're doing something, this, you're talking to this daemon, you're talking to this daemon, and you're talking to this daemon, and you're talking to this. And they just drew it out, the whole system. And then I was like, that blew my mind. I was like, whoa, wow, this is how everything is organized. That makes sense, right? All the pieces of code are contained in these little containers, and they kind of just bump into each other in real time. And that's how life is in general anyway. So that type of thinking of approaching software by doing, right? By literally getting your hands into these systems, testing it, will teach you so much that it carries you forward for the rest of your life. For me, a lot of my live streams, you see me coding live and even breaking down bugs live. Something happens, I don't freak out, because I've seen this happen so many times. It's like, we can figure it out. We have to step through the process of thinking and code, and then you'll get like a muscle trained to think this way. So whenever something happens, you're like, it must be this, or it has to be this. Let's just kind of start here and then start to kind of procedurally go through things. And that's kind of what I do live. And if you want to see more of that, definitely tune into Ray Fernando 1337 here. Subscribe, hit that like button. Obviously, stay tuned, because I'm going to be going live every single day, probably until the rest of the month and the next month and so forth, because building with AI for me is just really fun. It's really important. There's so much stuff that's happening, and I like to break this stuff down. I have some stuff that I'm going to show some folks as well for how I do some documentation, how I yap basically to Opus, how I generate this plan with Opus. I'll be sharing that publicly so you can download these types of things. No gatekeeping here. So definitely feel free to check that out. I also have a Discord for those who are wanting to join, rfer.me/Discord. I'll put that in the chat here, https /rfer.me/Discord. So yeah, it's just a paid group that folks can kind of join in and ask some questions. It's not crazy noisy in there. It's all the people who are very serious about coding with AI and kind of hanging out. And that's just our background. For those who don't know, I used to be an engineer at Apple for 12 years. Literally billions of people have been affected by the stuff that I've worked on. And it's insane. And the reliability rate is the best in the industry. It's the standard for everything that what people use today. And when people talk about all these different systems and stuff, It's crazy. It's insane. And it's just an amazing time to be alive to use these AI systems now and kind of like make them sing again. So it's really cool. This is kind of the stuff that we do here. I don't know. I feel like we can go on for like, but we probably should just do this as like a part 3 because like we've dropped so many gems and so many people are just like loving the stream. I love all the comments that are rolling through. Like Mr. Wayne says, thank you so much for answering this amazing live stream. Appreciate the clarity and the energy you bring these streams. Like it's always a pleasure to watch and learn from you. I definitely appreciate that, man. This has been like a fire stream. so crazy. If you guys tried, I think there's so many more different comments. If you're interested, we're going to have the timestamps at low so you can rewatch the stream later on. That's going to be powered by raytranscribes.com, something I literally vibe coded last year, at the forefront of, vibe coding basically. And something that I use every day as a content creator is just, transcribing my stuff and making it searchable through the stuff. So also big shout out to, Livux. He's loving the stream. And if I could be a guest next time, because I think you're the one that discovered the limits for Codex, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess people are going to be asking at the end of the stream, who's the winner here? Is it Codex? Is it Cursor? Is it Claude Code?
Really?
Like, what's your?
Clear?
I don't know. It's just us yapping for like an hour, but like, maybe remind them. Yeah.
No, listen. Like, for me, there's a very clear flow of tools, right? Like, and it has just been shaken up actually, right? Because of Codex, and the Lambo of AI tools is Cursor. I'm gonna keep saying that because I think it's very catchy and it's true. And then the next tier is something like Windsurf, which is very, very good.
Or that's a Toyota Prius, bro.
No. Windsurf is like a nice BMW, It's like a good one. It's a solid car. It's not a Lambo, but it's a really good car. And then the best value in the industry right now, I would argue, if you can not use GPT-5 high all the time, but you use just GPT and maybe minimal or low, use Codex. Either if you like the flow in the Codex CLI, or install the free VS Code and just use it in the native extension, which is in the marketplace. You can just install it. It takes 2 minutes. And then you can literally code a significant amount of time every single day for $20 a month, which is already part of your ChatGPT Plus. This is not going to be a full-time gig. If you need a full-time gig, right, then you need the Pro subscription, which is $200 a month. But if you're just starting out and you want to experiment with it, it's literally part of your Plus subscription. And who doesn't have a Plus subscription these days,
Right. Yeah, you get those memories, you get to talk to ChatGPT, and you get to cook and you get to ship.
Yeah. And Livux rightfully says, augment. Listen, augment is also really good. I just wish they were in Cursor. I have to double down on that, right? Because if they were in Cursor, then I could use Cursor and augment, and that'd be really cool. The same is true for Warp. They're never going to do it. It goes against everything they stand for, right? But if Warp had a native extension for VS Code, I would use them too,
Okay. Shots. Like if you're listening to this, or if you know anyone there, please let them know. Fix these things. We want to give you money. No, I mean that's how serious you gotta be. Yeah.
But Warp, they go against IDEs with all their heart, right?
Yeah.
They are trying to find the balance of what it means to have a full sort of an IDE, but as a terminal, right? Because now they introduced the file tree, which is really interesting, and the diff viewer, which is also very cool. It's a completely different workflow that I think if you, again, take what I say with a grain of salt because they just sponsored my channel, but they have a completely different workflow that I think if you embrace it can be really fun, and really good too. I don't care saying that because I don't use it myself, and I make that very clear in the, I use it, but I use it with Codex or Claude Code.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
As a terminal app, it's really good. It's actually the reason that I use it the most because I don't know all the other day, great example. The other day I was like, I want to run a tunnel to my local machine. so that I could test webhooks. I used to use like ng-rock for this, which was really cool, but now it's very hard to use it because you need to pay for it if you don't want this like in between page and whatever. It's like whatever. Let's not get into it. But I just asked Rock how to do this, like, and they're like, oh, you can use Cloudflare for this. I didn't know that.
For tunnels,
so I just asked, exactly. So I just asked Warp to make sure that I have that stuff installed and that it runs it and done. Easy,
nice.
In,
it is
like
easy.
In 30 seconds, I had a tunnel running. I still don't know how to run this, and I don't have to. That's the beauty of it,
That's also true. Yeah. Dang, that's so wild. Yeah. Man, we can go on, but definitely stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. We're going to have a part 3 of this. Probably be a month. It's kind of fun to have a month check-in because it feels like it's been like a year. And then like next week is just going to be crazy with model announcements. The week after, OpenAI, everyone's just going to start responding. It's just going to be nuts.
What do you know, Ray? Huh? What are you not telling us here?
I know some things, but if I talk any more, the mafia will get me, if you know what I mean.
Damn.
Yeah, but I'm going to be at the OpenAI Developer Day, October 6th, for anyone who's going to be in San Francisco. So definitely pull up if you're there. Let's go ahead and hang out. It'll be kind of really fire. And I'm going to see if I could do a live stream. Last year, I did a live stream from the event after they did some announcements, and I think I was able to demo the OpenAI real-time stuff. And hopefully they'll give me God access again to some type of model or something so I can just start testing it. And we'll have the live testing here locked in.
Man, I'd love that. I would love to come, man. I have like a lot of stuff. Like I get like a lot of like dental stuff done. I get that Hollywood teeth smile getting going, this month. But it's gonna be like, man. I'm gonna be like, ring, like what is this? Like Jonah Hill.
It's already pretty good, man. Like
Wolf of Wall Street. Nah, man. It's gonna be like, bling. It's gonna be amazing.
That's so wild. Man. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is so wild. Yeah. It would definitely be so cool. Yeah. So cool. Definitely share this with the friends. If you're joining, this is just two engineers sitting down. Obviously this is our own opinions. We're, like none of these people who are giving us money to talk positively about any of these companies. We're just sharing straight up our raw opinion. We're going to have the timestamps obviously available below. You can come back and watch this later on YouTube as a video on demand type of thing. And appreciate everyone who's been able to follow. Obviously smash a thumbs up. Robin, thank you so much for joining the show. Next episode is probably going to be another banger. And I think this one's already pretty much a banger to begin with, but another one.
This one will be fine.
But hopefully I'll be able to tell you all about my cook framework for sure.
Oh yeah. We definitely, man. You need to. I'm going to tweet at you every day, and I was like, "How's it cooking? How's it cooking?"
Cooking. So for those who watch the stream, if you know, that's what you know. So you got to tell everyone else about the cook. So, all right, Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, man. Have a good one.